What's going on, guys? In this video, we'll be looking at experimental design. Your DV, or dependent variable, remember this was covered in the previous video, must be testable, and the experimental design must make the hypothesis you have come up with testable. Your DV needs to be operationalized, meaning it needs to be precisely defined and also quantitative, i.e. numbers, wherever possible. Now, there are three main types of experimental designs that you'll find popping up throughout your studies of psychology, but keep in mind that this is not an extensive list, meaning there are more. The ones I want you to get your head around in this episode are the independent group design, the repeated measures design, and the matched pairs design. The difference between these designs is all to do with how we arrange the participants within the group and how they are exposed to the independent variable. By now you already know how we do. Let's look at each design, examining their advantages and disadvantages. The independent group design means there are different participants in each group. Think independent, think stands alone. Each group is independent to the other. For example, in a memory recall test, one group tries to recall a list of memorized words without sleeping for 24 hours, whilst the other group has had the recommended 8 hours of sleep. See, two independent groups of participants. An advantage of this method is that there is no order effect. Put simply, no one gets better through practice, also known as the learning effect, nor do they get worse due to being tired or simply bored. This is known as the fatigue effect. What about disadvantages, I hear you ask? Don't worry, I got you. Participant recruitment is a potential disadvantage, as you would need twice as many to conduct an independent group design. Also, it is impossible to take into account all participant variables. For example, one group may have someone who is used to going days without sleep due to lifestyle and is able to function relatively well. The repeated measures design is one where all participants repeat the experiment under both conditions. So in our previous example, all participants would record the list with and without 8 hours of sleep. There are two main advantages to this method, the first being the number of participants. Fewer participants are required to attain the same amount of data. The second is that we don't need to worry about participant variables as we did with the independent group design. Disadvantages? One key disadvantage is order effects or practice. If the participants had completed the experiment once before, it can be difficult to wholly attribute any difference to a change in the IV. Last but not least, we have the matched pairs design. Now, the matched pairs design has different participants in each condition, but these participants are matched on important variables such as age, height, sex, or personality. Advantages of this method are that there are no order effects like with the independent group design, and we also minimize participant variables through matching. Disadvantages? Well, like with the independent group design, we need twice as many participants than the repeated measures design. It can also be time consuming and difficult to find matching participants. Now remember, research needs to be highly controlled. This helps to avoid the effects of extraneous variables, any variable other than the independent variable that may be affecting what you're trying to measure. But how do we go about eliminating these extraneous variables? Things such as counterbalancing, where we mix up the order of the tasks, can help solve order effects in repeated measures designs. Or we can use random allocations, kind of like drawing names out of a hat. This will mean everyone has an equal chance of doing either condition. Perfect for an independent measure study, but we must ensure random allocations are not biased on key variables. Randomization is when the material is presented to participants in a random order. So imagine you were doing a repeated measures test of memory under two conditions. By randomizing the items to be memorized, we can remove the possibility of order effects. Standardized instructions will help ensure that experimenters behave in a similar way with all participants. By making it as similar as possible, we help to generate results that can be generalizable and more likely as a result of manipulation of our independent variable. Hopefully this gives you guys a better understanding of experimental designs. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace.